All right, so before starting this video, I just want to preface, I've built like most of my leg like density and mass just through like high rep, like just body weight squats, right? So I'll just do either just regular squats, I'll do Hindu squats where my heels are coming off the ground. I'll do maybe sumo squats, right, where like I'm taking more of a wide stance, whatever the case may be. And I'll even mix in a movement, like a bodyweight RDL, where I kind of just like literally just do this, and that really gets my hamstrings, and I feel it. And doing just hundreds and hundreds of reps. I have plenty of videos of me doing like 30 down squats, where that's like 445 reps in total. So if you're anything like me and you enjoy that way of training and you're consistent at it, it'll definitely grow you a good pair of wheels. But just what I'm going to show you with these following exercises, it's just kind of a way to show you different exercises that can vary your training if you want to just do more standard reps and sets approach when it comes to your muscle building, when it comes to calisthenics. So yeah, let's get right into it. And in general, I always like to start my lower body workouts by doing some core work, usually just simply leg raises. Just no particular reason, I just have to make sure I train my abs at some point in time. So first up is the pistol squat, and you might already be thinking like, what? I don't need rings to do a pistol squat. Well, if you're not that experienced with them and you want to balance yourself and use the rings as support, you can definitely make use of them in that way, like how I'll be demonstrating right here. Right, this way you don't have to worry much about mobility and balance when it comes to performing the pistol squat. You can just focus more on the strength aspect of things. And make sure you're not pulling too hard, because then you're taking the lower body training out of it. Because then now it just ends up becoming like a pull-up or something, more of like an assisted pull-up if you're pulling way too hard. So make sure you're not using your upper body to cheat the movement. Next up, we have the hip thrust with gymnastic rings, which is a very interesting movement. So you're gonna you're gonna like kick your heel through the ring right here like this, and you're gonna rest the balls of your feet on the top part of the ring. So just follow what I'm doing. If you need more security, I guess you can wrap your toes around the straps or whatever. And then it's basically just like a regular hip thrust. You thrust your hips up, but the difference is here, since you're on an unstable surface, what's going to happen is that your hamstrings are going to work a lot harder to stabilize. So it won't be as easy to perform the movement. One thing to keep in mind is that I am supersetting these movements. I superset a lot on my lower body days just to kind of save time, even if I'm doing some stuff weighted. Of course, another thing is, if you want to challenge yourself with these movements, of course you can do them weighted. There's no problem, since you'll just be increasing the challenge. And again, like I said, if you don't care about mobility or the whole challenging technical aspects of the pistol squat, it's fine to use assistance. You don't even need to use rings. You could use like just like how I have my patio pillar, or you could use like a barbell or some type of rod or something. Also, with single leg movements is going to help a lot with any imbalances when it comes to mobility and strength. That way your body can be more resilient and less likely to succumb to injury. which will just be beneficial for you over the long run. Whew. So, make sure to keep that in mind. On to our next set of exercises, which will be the isolation exercises. This one is a sissy squat. If you're into calisthenics, it might be familiar. You might be familiar with this movement. And again, I'm using the rings as, comparing it to the pistol squat. I'm using the rings the same way for assistance and making sure that I'm not pulling too hard with my upper body and making sure that I'm using just about only my quads to assist myself in this movement. There are some form cues when it comes to sissy squats. It's keeping a straight torso, because if you come down here and you bend, you're doing a squat now. You're doing like a regular Hindu squat. You're not doing a sissy squat, which gives you that complete and ultimate stretch in the quads. Now, you can do this movement without assistance if you care about, stuff like balance and whatnot. But if you just purely want like strength and muscle gains from this movement, then there's no problem doing it assisted. And again, like I said, with the pistol squats, you don't need rings to assist yourself. You can use a pillar, you can use a pole, you can use your door handle, whatever. Just make sure you're doing it safe and you have the proper knee strength and mobility to do so. And you can just build up those things just by doing regular bodyweight squats or Hindu squats. Next up, what we have is the ring hamstring curl, which is pretty difficult as well, so be careful. You're gonna get in the same exact position you would if you were doing the hip thrust, but you're gonna be sitting back a little further because you want your hamstrings to be straight out, so that way you can curl inwards. And there's two ways to do this movement. You can have your butt on the ground and you can just pull your knees in. Now, if you have, you're a beginner, that will still work your hamstrings. But if you want it to be harder, you get into the hip thrust position and you curl like that, which is super challenging. Ugh. Ugh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's super hard. And you really want to be careful you're not overworking yourself, because hamstrings can be injured very easily if you're not careful. For this workout, I am doing 2 sets of each exercises. And again, like I said, I'm supersetting them. So that means any quad movement I'm doing, I'm following that set with the hamstring movement, right? So after a set of pistol squats, I'll do the hip thrust, and then I'll do the pistol squats again, and then I'll do the hip thrust. Supersetting is a very great way to save time and to build muscle as well, and just to be a lot more efficient in the gym or when you're working out, especially if you're someone who's very busy. Because when you're supersetting and you're working opposite muscle groups, you can have those muscle groups that are not being worked rest, and then vice versa when you move on to the next movement. So an example would be if you were to have a day where you work your arms, you do tricep extensions, and then you move on to bicep curls. Your triceps are resting when you're doing the bicep curls, and then when you go back to the tricep extensions, your biceps are resting. It's kind of funny that I'm talking about arms on a day where I'm doing legs. And I am doing 2 sets each movement. You could do 3. Hell, you could do 4. I don't really care. Just make sure you're working in a way that won't jeopardize your recovery, and that you can make sure you're just being safe in general, and then you're not injuring yourself. Sorry if I look like a little antsy or jumpy while I was doing some of these sets. It's just that there's so many freaking mosquitoes out here, and they're just trying to suck me off like crazy. They just can't resist a young black man as myself. But, you can't let the distractions get in your way of achieving greatness. You just have to make sure you focus on what is right and do you, you know? Can't let these blood-sucking mosquitoes dictate your life. I am also training to failure. Um, since I'm kind of splitting up my training a little bit, I'm better able to make sure that I can kind of just train to failure every time I like would train different muscle groups. And just keeping that in mind, like, you know, if you're ready to ask how many sets, how many reps, just train to failure.